My name is Emilee Butler. I'm a professional artist, and this is my story. My earliest memories relating to art are really basically just creating art in my home and then with my grandmother. My grandmother was a major influence, especially early in my art career, because she's an artist herself, an oil color painter, and we would spend hours and hours just painting together, and that was something that really helped nurture my early love for the art. And also something as simple as sidewalk chalk and playing outside every day or playing with crayons. I always found a way to engage in art, whatever the avenue I found was. I feel like being homeschooled really helped develop me both personally and as an artist, especially when I was very young. Being free to create what I wanted to create and create individually without having the sort of standard or pressure of a classroom environment really allowed me to pursue something that I was passionate about to the fullest degree. Ever since I can remember, I've been creating art in some capacity. I don't think there was something that really turned me on to art per se, it's just something that I was always doing. I remember being a young kid and engaging in the local church curriculum and being moved up to the 12-year-olds when I was still an 8-year-old. And it was just the constant pursuit. When I first entered the public school system and when I was first building myself as an academic, I was always very academically motivated. And that was true even in my homeschool days as well. But I was very academically driven, very academically focused. I put a lot of importance on my grades and finding success in that way. And throughout high school, especially, I was a very good student. I was an honor student. I had a good GPA. I was on the speech team. And all of these academic pursuits were still very essential for me. The biggest difference that I noticed when I got into college, especially as a biology major, is in high school, I felt as though I could do well without having to try very hard. When I got to college, I had to try very hard and still didn't do well. And that was something I had not anticipated. And it was very difficult because I've always loved to learn, and that's been something that's been essential to my academic pursuit and the reason I've enjoyed academia. And at this point, I didn't feel like I was enjoying learning anymore. I felt rather that I was chasing a fear of failure and that I was no longer engaging in learning in a healthy and beneficial way, and that I was in an environment where I was stressed and anxious and under so much academic pressure that I wasn't able to really breathe, let alone paint. One of the things that I did initially in my gap year was take part in the Premier Portfolio Program through Prima Materia Art Institute. They're a California-based online art institute, and this program was essentially designed to build and curate an art portfolio. But one of the things that this institute really did for me was reconnect me with my creativity. It allowed me to explore avenues of art that were previously unfamiliar to me. I worked really large scale for the first time, putting unstretched canvas up on a wall. I worked in surrealism, I worked in abstract, I worked in these new styles that I had wanted to pursue, but I didn't know how to start. One of the things that we focused on a lot is that you have to make bad art in order to make good art, and breaking down the judgment associated with the art making process. When you are creating something, your judgment is there telling you that it's bad or pointing out the flaws or just allowing you to think too directly about what you're doing. But to disconnect yourself from that and to play and to create for the sake of creating is something that I think is so essential to the art making process. I started looking into getting a studio when I essentially didn't have anywhere else I could put all of my work. As much as I had an apartment, I had an art studio with a bed. And in order to really take this thing seriously and push myself, I felt that I needed a space to match that. And I was lucky enough to come across a space 2 blocks away from my apartment. So I have my sort of ideal studio setup where I have my dedicated space to create and my dedicated work environment, and then I can separate that from my life and my everyday living environment. This space has become somewhere that I spend quite a lot of my time, and I've worked very hard to curate it and build it into a place that fosters my creativity, and it's a place that I want to be and I want to go and create and fill with more art. And I take a lot of inspiration from the art that's already in the room. My favorite style is difficult because there are different styles that I really enjoy for different reasons. I've long said that realism is my favorite. I most often describe myself as a realism portraiture artist, and that's been one that I've taken the time to refine the skill for a very long time. I really like realism because it does take that level of skill to do well, and I find it very challenging and therefore rewarding. I'm not sure if I do have a favorite piece. I have a lot of pieces that I like for a lot of different reasons, but I'm also very critical of my work, and even with a completed piece, and I say that loosely, there will always be things that I have a desire to change. So it can be difficult to step away and say, I'm proud of this product and this is my favorite product, because there's usually something that I would like to be able to change. I think that specific pieces are not necessarily as significant to me as just the process itself. The real difficult question is, where do I see myself? What's the goal? What's the pursuit? How am I going to make money? And I have some general answers. The idea is to be a self-sustaining studio artist. I can maybe work for commission. Ideally, I paint what I want to paint and people buy it. But I don't have a real concrete how-to guide or steps that I'm going to take, which might be a little bit reckless. But at this point, I'm engaging in it because it's what I feel drawn to engage in, and it's what feeds me, and I'm looking for ways to facilitate art making for myself. And hopefully it'll take off enough that I'll be able to use it to finance that lifestyle. But where I'm at right now, where I'm also working in the service industry to sustain myself, I'm still pursuing art and I'm still enjoying pursuing art. So really, if that's the standard, I guess I've sort of already met it.